Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module 7. And this week, you have two things working together. And I want to be clear about how they divide the labor because they're doing different jobs. So, the key points slideshow will take you inside the interaction. It gives you different 5 levels of discourse structure, exchange, add, idea, information, and participation. And it walks you through the word and enriches examples using those levels. That is the apparatus for analyzing how a single stretch of talk is built. So spend real time with it. It is the toolkit for the transcription you are about to do. So what I want to add in this video is the one thing those 5 levels do not capture on their own. And it is the idea that reorganizes everything we have done in this unit. So before I go further, I want to spend a minute on what you did in the field notes analysis because I read all of your work this week. It was intense, but I really enjoy spending a lot of time in responding to you and really understanding your analysis. And what it also does is that it set this model up better than anything I could have designed. So, two things you did really well. So, the first is that the description was your stronger ground. And across the class, the notes you took were careful and they were concrete. And you recorded what a camera could catch, the count in the bat with the Fenway example, the flip flops, the hand going into the purse, the Chinese characters moving through the chat while the speaking went on in Japanese. And that discipline matters more than it might feel like in the moment. So, because clean description is the material everything is built from. So, the second is that you caught yourselves. Well done, class. Over and over in your reflections, you notice a conclusion that had been wearing the costume of an observation, and you named it. One of you wrote that a woman was hot and then stopped and asked, how did I know that she was hot? And realize you have seen her fanning herself and supply the rest. So that question is not a small thing. That question is the method. So now, two places where the work goes next. And they are really the same places seen from two different sides. So the first is one that many of you named before I pulled. You went into the observation without a research question, and so you tried to capture everything, and you felt overwhelmed. And then you go to the evaluation column, and there was nothing for you to point at. And that is not a failure of your attention. That is what happens to attention when it has no question to organize it. Without a question, every detail arrives in equal weight. And the second, the conclusions that came fastest were the ones that went on excellent. What kind of place this is? What kind of person that is? Why they must have done that? So those arrive feeling like a plain description, and that is exactly why they slip past the scrutiny you gave to everything else. So the inference that feels most obvious is one that hides the best. So hold on top both of those because this week hands you the same problem in a new form. You are about to transcribe, and you will find very quickly that you cannot transcribe everything either. You will have to select. And the moment you find the most interesting, the one that seems to be telling you something, is the moment you will be more tempted to overread. A detail that I did not share with you last week is that the third voice that you hear when in the conversation, or the voice that you listen, is the FCI team leader. There are 3 teachers in the group, two ESL teachers and 1 math teacher. And that fourth voice that you hear is the leader when she joins them during the conversation. So remember, when you hear a detail that really calls your attention, remember that it also presents as a temptation. And it is not a problem to avoid. It is the exact place these weak methods that is work. So cross-event analysis is the discipline that keeps a single moment from becoming a verdict, which brings me to Worthen and Regis. So Schifrin's levels are powerful, but notice what they do. They analyze a structure within an event. How is this conversation organized? Who takes which turn? Who is positioned how right here? So Wharton and Regis ask a different question, and it is the heart of this chapter. They ask what a moment means across events over time. Their claim is that the meaning of an interaction is very often not settled inside that interaction at all. It settles across a pathway of linked events that the analysis has to reconstruct. And here is the part I most want you to carry with you. When you read their analysis in the key point slides, watch how patiently they refuse to conclude. A single vivid moment invites a reading and they decline it. They will not let one event decide what a person or a sign means. They wait until a configuration of signs accumulates across events, and only then they name the pattern. That restraint is not caution for their own sake. It is the method. The discipline of cross-event analysis is the discipline of waiting for the pattern to become robust before you trust it. The 5 levels tell you how to read the moment. The pathway tells you how long to wait before you believe what you read. So, this is also why we finish Ways with Words this week. And it is the one piece of this module that lives only here and not in the slides. So read chapter 8 and 9 and the epilogue as a sequence, because the sequence is the whole point. Chapters 8 and 9 give you the interventions, teachers using ethnography as a way of learning, and the children positioned as ethnographers of their own communities. The emblem is the 5th grade science unit, a lowest strat class of Black boys reading years below grade level becomes a team of field workers. They interview local farmers. They collect life stories or histories. They translate what people know about planting by the moon into scientific concepts. 12 of 23 score above 90 on the unit test, and no one of them have ever passed a science unit test before. Read it out on its own. That is a success story. Then the epilogue arrives and the interventions are gone. Bureaucratization has swept them away. The teachers are demoralized. Tractum has despaired. And now you have to ask the question the whole week is about. What did that science unit actually mean? You cannot answer that from chapter 9. You can only answer it across the pathway. So that is he doing cross-event analysis on her own intervention. Her epilogue does to her chapter 9 exactly what Worthen and Regis do to a single vivid classroom moment. It refuses to let one event to settle the meaning. So now, here is all of this. Here is how all this comes into your own hands. Your transcription assignment has two parts. First, you will choose a moment from our ACI recording that genuinely interests you and transcribe it in detail using the conventions that we have seen in different chapters. Choosing what to transcribe is not a neutral, pre-analytic act. It is already a claim about what matters. It is your first analytic commitment. And here is the honest problem with that. The moment that most interests you is very often the moment you are most tempted to overread. It is vivid, it is suggestive, and it invites exactly the kind of conclusion Worthen and Regis taught themselves to withhold. So, the second part of the assignment is a short memo. And the memo is where the pathway ideas does its work on your own data. It asks two questions. What did this moment tempt you to conclude? And what will you need from other moments in the recording or from the log and field note data you build on module 6 to actually support that reading? That second question is the discipline of waiting. Turn on yourself. You will use the key point slides to analyze the structure of your moment, and you will use the memo to stay honest about how far a single moment can be trusted. So, here is the sentence to carry with you this week. Meaning is not in the moment, it is in the trajectory. When you sit down with our recording, use the 5 levels to see how the moment is built. But before you conclude anything, ask the other question. What will I need from other moments to trust what I think this one shows? That question is what separates analysis from a good guess. So class, I'm looking forward to reading what you have chosen, and have a good week.